Hey guys. Well, and this is one I actually saw recently on YouTube just yesterday, actually. And it appears that somebody has made a love doll of Sally Acorn. Now, she is one of the female hedgehogs from, Sonic, the video games. Now, don't get me wrong, some of them are actually kind of pretty, kind of like what's her name? Rogue Bat, I think her name was, and there's also Amy. Man, it's been a long time. I'm surprised I even remember the names, but man, this guy made a fabric love doll in particular of this character. Okay, if my phone will let me fucking in here. Now this one is just a 5-minute video. I haven't seen this one just yet. So let's just kind of hear what he says. It says, Bud C's favorite personal childhood character to Sally Acorn. I don't know what he's doing. It just shows his room. Okay. There he is.
What, everybody? It's me, Excidian 2031, and I'm here to open another package. And only this time, it's my second personal favorite character from back in the 90s. And her name is Princess Sally Acorn.
Not too bad. I think that actually might be something different, though, but yeah, there's another 3-minute video here. I haven't seen this one either.
What about the Sally Acorn you talked about on Twitter?
Oh my God! Okay. I have to do it. Yeah, no,
you have to.
I don't have to. Maybe I should. I was
listening to.
Go for it anyway. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. What I'm about to post, I'm sort of gonna regret it, but here we go. Okay, so somebody, I apologize. Somebody created this.
Oh my God!
Somebody.
Is that a huge? Oh.
I don't know if it's.
Oh my God! Is that real?
I don't know if it's wooden or if it's a human skeleton.
It was an add-on on 4chan, right?
That's real.
No, it has to be fake. There's no way.
That doesn't look real at all.
Yep, it's real.
That was an add-on on 4chan. Posted it, and they reverse image searched it, and I don't think there was any results.
Oh my God!
So it's either real or some guy really went into effort into making a fake on Photoshop.
Of course, that looks. Wait, that doesn't look. Is that like from a science classroom, and then they dressed it up? Like,
it's not a real skeleton.
You guys can add extra layers of ominousness to it, especially if you're choosing to believe that.
Yeah.
You're like, let's choose to believe the most ominous thing.
I mean,
and it's just like the quality of the photos too. It just looks so. It just looks weird. Like no matter how you look at it, it just has a strange feeling to it.
I agree.
It's kind of got a grandma's house vibe to it. You know?
Grandma's house vibe.
I hate to say it, but it actually does kind of look like a grandma's house. I will say that much.
Well, there was that dude who. No, this story is too grim. I was about to say what it is, but it's way too grim of a story. See, I don't know.
I already knew where you were going.
Okay, then you tell the story.
We need a spooky story.
Guy that cut off his arms?
No.
Free for all.
No, I even forgot about that.
This is going. This is the spooky story stream. Is that what everyone's in the vibe for?
No, they're talking about it, but they're kind of jibber-jabbering, so I'm just going to move on to the next video here. Now, this video I have in the link below in the description, and now we'll just play this right now. Now, this is the video I saw yesterday.
In my old Angel Fire Adventures video about Sonic Underground fan fictions,
I posited the theory that many present-day furries were fur-pilled by Princess Sally Acorn from the old Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons and Archie comics. After posting the video, several furries confirmed that, yeah, Princess Sally did have a part in their awakening. Well, I've got some news for you guys.
Nice.
Princess Sally is real. No, that's not a person in a costume. That's Sally Acorn in the flesh. And fur. And bones. Find out all about her in this episode of Tales from the Internet. If you ever dreamed of controlling a dinosaur with guns on it, boy have I got the game for you. This video was sponsored by Jurassic Monster World, now available on the iOS Store as well as the Google Play Store. In this game, you're in a post-apocalyptic desires. Those desires being the loving embrace of one Princess Sally Acorn, who made her debut in the 1993 Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. But making a cuckold of Jaleel White Sonic is easier said than done. What a lot of guys do who want to just get out of the whole dating quagmire is they buy themselves a sex doll. But a high-level pre-made, like Dominique, who went viral a few years ago and had people swearing off human women, that'll run you a few $1,000s. And then there's some other options all the way down to a $15 blow-up doll, like Judy over here. Can you imagine that face staring at you the whole time? But regardless of how much you have to spend on this, there's no companies, to my knowledge, that will give you a pre-made Sally Acorn. So that's not going to work. Your next option is to channel the true punk DIY spirit and make your own. And thankfully, there's guides. Like this one I found on HomemadeSexToys.com, which is apparently a website that exists. This process basically entails building your own Frankenstein monster. You buy a mouth, some hands, some feet, some boobs, and a pocket pussy. Baby, you got a stew going. And then you mount it all on a mannequin and get something that looks a little bit like this. Reminds me of those hard plastic 90s WWF action figures. And it's just gonna lay there like this. Oh, my hot dog. At that point, you might as well just take a plastic bag to a couch cushion, because that's just not gonna cut it. You gotta have some kind of movement. Typically, this is handled by giving sex dolls some kind of metallic skeletal frame, but metal skeletons have their limitations. And this is what makes Sally Acorn so infamous. It's not just that this doll is so absurdly realistic. It's to the point where, on first glance, it looks like a person in a fursuit. It's pretty uncanny, but not that much crazier than anything we've seen before. It's what lies beneath the surface that gives this thing its reputation. I'm talking about the skeleton. Guy makes a Sally Acorn sex doll from a human skeleton. In honor of the Sonic movie trailer release, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone of the time a person on DeviantArt built a life-size Sally Acorn doll using a human skeleton as the base. This is a Sally Acorn sex doll, me using a human skeleton. Sweet dreams. The presence of a skeleton...
You know, just one thing to note right before it continues. You know, you can actually get, like, a legitimate, like, I would say plastic, like, life-size skeleton with a lot less efforts, just so you know. It's really not that hard to get a life-size version of a human skeleton. It really is not that hard. Anyway.
Skeleton inside Sally adds a whole other layer, because at this point, does this count as necrophilia? Can you imagine if you died only to have your remains used to be a part of Sonic the Hedgehog's sometimes girlfriend, lovingly crafted to have a fellow cuddling up to your dead bones? Well, as with many online curiosities, this one isn't necessarily what it seems to be at first glance. The creator of Sally was discovered to be a DeviantArt user named Gradendy, who describes himself as an artificer who sculpts in clay, cloth, wood, metal, pixels, polygons, lines, words, and data. After several incidents where people discovered Sally and came to his DeviantArt page to say, dude, what the fuck? He decided to clear the air a little bit. For starters, this skeleton isn't actually a skeleton. The bones are carved from pine, wood from trees, which are plants, and are burnished, rubbed with a burnishing cloth in place of sanding. It hardens the surface and gives it a better shine. The staining, the result of burnishing, and discoloration, a half-hearted attempt to paint them white with some cheap-ass spray paint, are nothing like that of real bone.
Just a waste of labor,
I'm
guys.
sure
Just
that
a waste of
chicken
labor.
or seen bones removed from meat, The difference between wood and bone is like the difference between night and day. And if you take a closer look at the skeleton, I believe him. But that being said, it does look extremely lifelike, which is really impressive. In other posts, he mentions that to get it right, he consulted 2 books, Anatomy for the Artist and Atlas of Human Anatomy. And that being said, you have to wonder, why go through all of this trouble just for a part of the doll that will never actually be seen in the finished product?
And it's just like I just said a couple minutes ago. There's some life-size skeletons that are not real human skeletons. You could just get them off of Amazon or on the internet somewhere. They are not hard to get, and that's exactly what this person probably should have done. I do not know why he went through so much effort.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't hook up with a woman and think, hey, there's like bones rattling around inside. I mean, now that I said it, I probably will think that, and so will you because you heard it, but it's not normal. And actually, he has an explanation for this.
It's been almost 24 years since its release. Back in the day, the game was all the craze. Many people skipped
Seriously,
years
fucking
to
ads.
Why did you use a human skeleton as a reference in the first place? I tried to reverse engineer a skeleton from the toonish looking pictures and the results were freakish, way worse than anything I've made. Then I tried to make the proportions a little more realistic and things were still bad. Then I made them a little bit off from human and they got better but were still pretty bad. Bottom line is that all of the non-human attributes are superficial. Aside from the bigger head, repositioned ears, tail, muzzle, I recently took that off and the likeness improved. And fur, the character in question is otherwise human in appearance and form. Bigger ears make the head look bigger, so I was able to get some of that back without ruining things. Why did it have to look so realistic? The skeleton defines appearance as much as muscle, and fudging on the skeleton means that I fudge on the muscle layer too. And yes, there is a muscle layer, but we'll get into that later. The movie Face Off is unrealistic because even if they could do all that stuff, the skull differences would ruin the final result. With the process I was using, tracing lateral and anterior images onto blocks and cutting each, then rounding them off, it was just as easy to leave all the details in. The only purpose simplification could serve is to keep people from screaming and crying. Closed-minded people who refuse to hear out perfectly rational explanations in favor of protecting the hype. Their willfully ignorant opinions really shouldn't matter. I wasn't expecting that my work was close enough to the real thing would bring out all the paranoid kids wanting to take out their aggression on me, which, to be honest, has become vastly more amusing than annoying. And while that does seem like a ton of unnecessary work, you can't really argue with the results. As I said before, to me, it looks more like a person in a costume than it does a life-size plushie. Although that being said, he has mentioned that he would never go through the trouble of hand-carving parts again, and that newer techniques may provide better results. There are also a lot of people asking for advice on how they can make their own. So in one post, he would go even further in depth about the process behind Sally. Skeleton. This is where the proportions are decided. You don't need to get all of the bones perfect. I did that and spent a lot more time than I should have. The legs can be dowels. Make sure to get the knees shaped right. The pelvis is just a bitch. I bought a medical model $50 to use as reference, then got lazy and just installed it. Then I paid another $50 for another one to be a reference for my production pieces. No shortcuts allowed this time. Hands and feet are tricky, and anatomical accuracy counts. You can get an easy head base using a foam mannequin. For the ribs, I went with heavy wire, the kind used in fences. The spine is made from wooden pieces separated by silicone blobs. Muscles. This is where the shape and contour are decided. Not much more than spandex tubes and bags. The stitch used, blanket stitch, is important, otherwise it could snap, bind, or leak stuffing. After they're made, you can attach them to the bones with screws, staples, or thread depending on where they are and how much load they have. Skin. The fun part. Seriously, it has been fun. I used part of the duct tape dummy technique, but instead of making a dummy, I cut it where I wanted the seams and used it as a pattern for the fur. Always cut fur on the back side, known as the wrong side in sewing, with an X-Acto knife. I use figure 8 variant of the blanket stitch to sew fur. It leaves no seams and still holds well. The drawback is that it takes good judgment and a fair amount of skill. Details, the little things. Eyes, clear plastic ornament balls painted on the inside with enamel paint, glass paint, and acrylic paint. Teeth, not done yet on Sally. A dental polymer requires molds. Tongue, not done yet on Sally. The tongue is muscle. Pink spandex will be fine. Head hair, doll hair works well. Make sure it's something you can work with. A wig is fine too if you can tolerate. It should be noted too that he didn't just figure this out all at once. Sally has been in the making since 1999 with tons of trial and error. And although much of the very early stuff isn't preserved, you can see its progression on Grenadine's DeviantArt over the course of more than a decade. One example being her jaw. The plexiglass mandible is in. I was so nervous about this. The camera doesn't show it well, but her jaw has changed drastically. Much more feminine. Very proud of how this came out. As of me making this video, this project is more than 20 years in the making and still isn't 100% complete. But Grenadine has stated his intent to refine his process such that he'll be able to mass produce plushies like this. Considering how many requests for commissions I've seen him turn down, and considering how many artists I've heard say that the only way they can afford to put food on their table is by drawing furry porn, I can't help but think that if he actually does manage to refine his process enough for mass production, it will be wildly successful. And while this all seems absolutely insane, you can't help but have some sense of admiration for the level of craftsmanship and a person going into uncharted territory like this and figuring it out as they go along just because it's what they wanted to do. And to that end, Grenadine had this to say. Sally was not an easy project. It took a lot of persistence. 10 years and she's still not 100% done. I spent around $600 making her. Most of the time and money were on parts and materials that ended up discarded. Trial and error. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Thomas A. Edison. I like to think that somewhere out there, Thomas Edison is looking down on Grenadine, proud of the legacy he's created. But anyway, that's all for now. If you like this video, check out my video about another art project, Chinese Man.
That's enough of that. Oh my god. Yeah, I gotta say, like, just don't get me wrong. You know, when it comes to making a love doll, especially a high-end one or a fabric one, it does take a lot of work. But this guy, I just think that he is just way overthinking the process. I mean, 10 years and he's still not done. Oh my god. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, people are always working to make a better love doll, sex doll, you know, whatever you want to call it. And that's just kind of the process. But, you know, at some point, you've got to have a finished product, even if it's just for yourself. You know, I'm surprised he hasn't ditched that project and started working on a new one. You know what I mean? He is stuck to literally the same love doll. You know, I admire his, I would say, patience and hard work. But, you know, the problem with some people is that sometimes they just tend to overthink things. And this is one of those times when, you know, somebody just way overthinks something in the process. And I'm guessing part of the reason is because it's kind of given him something to do. It's kind of given him in his, you know, mind to work on something, you know, and to live for. And with that being said, I mean, from what I've seen of the doll itself, I mean, it actually doesn't look too bad. But, you know, I probably, if I was to make something like that, I would probably make it a little bit differently. I wouldn't make it look like a person in a costume wearing a furry outfit. I would probably make it look a bit different, but, you know, that, of course, would be just me. You know, we all have our preferences. But anyway, that being said, I will just end this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.